The wind howled across the white, frozen land. Sharp ice blew in the air like tiny knives. The snow never stopped falling. And in the middle of this deadly cold, a mother sat in silence, her arms wrapped tightly around her small child. She was an alien, a tall, thin woman with silver skin and large, glowing eyes. Her clothes were torn, barely covering her. Her body shook from the cold. Her child, a tiny boy, cried softly in her arms. His small body was turning pale. He was too cold. Too weak. She looked around. Nothing. Just endless snow. No shelter. No people. No fire. Just her and her baby, alone. She had already burned most of her clothes, one piece at a time. Her jacket was gone. Her sleeves, too. She had burned them to keep her baby warm for one more hour. Just one more. Now she was nearly naked. The cold bit into her skin like teeth. But still, she held her child tightly. She had nothing left. The baby let out a weak cry. Then it stopped. Her heart jumped. Double quotes. No. Please, not now, she whispered. She quickly reached down, grabbed the last piece of cloth from around her waist, and tore it off. Her fingers were numb. Her hands shook. But she lit the small fire anyway, using her last bit of cloth, a rock, and a broken spark tool. The fire came to life, small but warm. She held the baby close to it. The flames gave some hope, but not much. Tears ran down her face. "I'm sorry, my child," she whispered. "I couldn't protect you. I couldn't find help." No one stopped. No one cared. Earlier that day, she had seen ships fly by above. She had waved, screamed, but none of them landed. Some saw her. Some even slowed down. But when they noticed her slave brand, they turned away. She was marked, owned, hunted. Now she was nothing. Just a mother with a dying child in the snow. Her body was losing strength. Her eyes felt heavy. She tried to keep the fire alive, but it was too small. Her fingers couldn't move anymore. Her baby was warm for now. But what about the next hour? The cold wind grew stronger. The flames danced but slowly began to die. She looked up at the sky. It was dark. Stars sparkled far away, cold and silent. "Please, anyone," she whispered. "If someone can hear me, save him. He doesn't deserve this." Then her head dropped. Her arms tightened around her baby, and she closed her eyes. Far away, someone heard the wind. A human man named Daniel was moving through the storm. He wore thick gear, heavy boots, and carried a heat scanner. He was a former soldier, now a traveler. He came to these frozen lands to find rare minerals, but something strange showed up on his scanner. A weak heat source, very small, almost gone. He followed it. As he walked closer, he saw a small fire in the snow. Then, he saw them. A silver-skinned alien woman, half naked, her body wrapped around a small child. Both looked frozen, barely breathing. He dropped to his knees. "Hey, can you hear me?" he said loudly. No answer. He touched her arm. It was stiff with cold, but not completely frozen. He moved quickly, taking off his own thick coat and wrapping it around both of them. He gently lifted the child first, placing him in a warm sack against his chest. Then he picked up the mother. She groaned softly. Still alive. He carried them both to his snowcrawler parked nearby. Inside, it was warm. He placed them near the heater and covered them with blankets. Then he gave the child a few drops of warm liquid. The baby coughed and then started crying softly. Daniel smiled. "He's alive," he said to himself. Then he turned to the mother. She looked peaceful now, her eyes half open. She saw him, just barely. Who? She whispered. "I'm human," Daniel sighed. "You're safe now." Her lips moved, but no sound came. A tear rolled down her cheek. She looked at her child, then at Daniel, and everything went black. Back in the snow, the small fire finally died. But inside the crawler, a new fire burned. Not of cloth and flame, but of hope. The storm howled outside, but inside the snow crawler, it was quiet. Daniel stared at the alien woman lying in the corner, wrapped in thick blankets. Her breathing was slow, weak. Her skin was still pale, but she was alive. The child beside her had stopped crying. Now he slept, tucked inside Daniel's coat like a tiny warm ball. The human man sat near them, watching. He didn't know her name. He didn't know where she was from. But he had never seen anything like that look in her eyes, so much fear, pain, and love. He had seen battlefields. He had seen warriors cry, soldiers beg, even killers break down. But this was different. This was a mother, ready to die for her child. Daniel turned up the heater. The small space filled with warm air. He placed 2 cups of hot nutrient broth on a tray. He placed 1 cup near her. The other he kept. She didn't move. He sighed and reached for his first aid kit. Her body had burn marks on it, not from fire, but from long, hot chains. Her wrists and ankles were scarred. Her back had a symbol burned into her skin. A mark of ownership, a slave brand. His jaw tightened. Someone had owned her. Someone had let her freeze. Someone had watched her fall apart and done nothing. He gently cleaned her hands, careful not to wake her. When he reached for her forehead to check her temperature, she flinched. Her eyes snapped open. She saw him. She moved fast, her hand reaching to grab something, but there was nothing to grab. She had no weapon, no strength. He raised his hands. Quickly, easy. I'm not here to hurt you. She stared at him, breathing hard, then looked around. The room, the warmth, the fire, her child, her child. She pushed herself up with all her might and reached for him. The baby was still wrapped and sleeping safely. She pulled him into her arms and held him tight, shaking. Daniel stayed quiet. Then in a soft voice he said, "You were dying out there. I only want to help." The alien woman didn't speak, but she didn't run either. He slid the hot cup closer to her. "Drink this, you need strength." She looked at the cup, then at him. Slowly, her thin fingers wrapped around it. She took 1 sip, then another. The warmth returned to her eyes. Just a little. Daniel leaned back against the wall. "I don't know who hurt you, or why. But I saw what you did for your kid. You burned your own clothes, didn't you?" She looked down, ashamed, then nodded once. Daniel shook his head. "No need to be ashamed. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen." Still, she said nothing. But her eyes softened just a bit. The storm outside screamed louder, shaking the crawler. Snow slammed against the metal shell. But inside, it was safe for now. Suddenly, the baby let out a small cry. He was hungry. The mother pulled a cloth from under the blanket and tried to feed him, but she was too weak. Her hands trembled. Daniel saw this and quietly opened a protein pack. "Here," he said. "Crush this into water. It'll help you both." She hesitated. Then slowly took it. Her fingers touched his hand, cold and shaking. But something passed in that moment. A silent understanding. She still didn't trust him, but she didn't fear him anymore. Later that night, after the storm calmed, Daniel stepped outside the crawler. He needed to get supplies from the small depot nearby. It was only a 10-minute walk. Safe, as long as the weather held. He looked back before locking the crawler. The alien mother was sleeping, her body curled around the baby, both warm under blankets. She looked peaceful now. Daniel smiled to himself. "Just a quick run," he said softly. But when he returned 20 minutes later, the crawler was empty. The door was wide open. Wind howled inside. The blankets were tossed aside. The mother and her child were gone. She ran. Her bare feet touched the snow, but she felt nothing. Her body was too numb, too weak. Her arms held her child close, tight against her chest. He was wrapped in a thick blanket, the only thing she took from the human who helped her, the human who gave her fire, warmth, and a chance to live. And yet, she ran. She didn't know why. Fear, habit, pain. She had been hunted so long. She couldn't stop running, not even from kindness. The sky above was turning dark again. The storm had passed, but the cold was still cruel. Her breath came out in thick clouds. Every step felt like her legs would break. But she didn't stop, because the sound was back, the growl in the distance. Low, slow, following her. It wasn't the human. It was something else. Back at the crawler, Daniel stood frozen at the door. They were gone. Snow blew inside. The blankets were on the floor. No signs of struggle, no blood, just gone. He grabbed his scanner and ran outside. The footprints were fresh, small feet in the snow, one set dragging. He followed them. He moved fast, heart pounding. Not because of anger but fear. "She's not strong enough," he whispered. "She won't survive another night out here." His scanner blinked. Something else moved nearby, circling the same direction. Something big. She moved slower. Now her legs burned. She looked behind her. Nothing. But her body told her the truth. Something was there. She stopped under a twisted tree made of crystal-like branches. Her body dropped to her knees. She gently lay her baby against her chest, hiding him under her arms. And then she heard it. Crunch. Footsteps. Big, heavy. She held her breath. Then a snarl. A beast. She remembered this sound. Back in the slave camps, the guards kept these creatures as hunters. Six-legged trackers. They followed the scent of branded ones. Ones like her. She pressed her child tighter and didn't move. But the creature moved closer. She could hear it breathing. It smelled her. Suddenly, it growled loud and leapt forward. She screamed. A red beam shot through the air, burning into the creature's side. It fell to the ground with a sharp cry. Then silence. Daniel stepped through the trees, holding a smoking blaster. His face was tight, jaw clenched. Snow clung to his beard. He saw her shivering, crying, shielding her child. He lowered his gun. "I told you it was safe," he said, his voice calm but firm. She didn't speak. He stepped closer. "You ran, and I understand. But you almost died again." Still no answer. "Let me help." Her eyes looked up, shining with tears, but not just fear, shame. "I thought they followed me," she whispered. Her voice was weak. "I didn't want them to hurt you." Daniel blinked. "You were protecting me?" She nodded once, barely able to keep her head up. He shook his head and knelt beside her. "You're freezing again. Let's get you both back." She hesitated, but her arms loosened, just a little. A quiet surrender. He picked her up again, gently, carefully, like a man carrying fire. And once more, the child made a soft sound. Alive, safe, warm. Back inside the crawler, he wrapped them both in blankets. Again, this time she didn't stop him. She let him feed her warm broth. She didn't speak. But her eyes watched him closely now. He sat near the heater, watching the child sleep. Then he finally asked, "What's your name?" She looked down for a long time. Then she said, very quietly, "Naraili." Daniel smiled. "I'm Daniel." There was a pause. Then Naraili asked, "Why? Why did you come back for me?" Daniel looked at the fire. "Because someone should have come for you a long time ago." She said nothing, but for the first time, she smiled, just a little asterisk. The snow crawler moved across the frozen land like a slow beast. Inside, the heat purred. The silence was calm. But Naraili didn't relax. She sat with her knees pulled to her chest, the blanket wrapped tightly around her thin frame. Her child, silent now, rested in her lap, his tiny breaths warm against her skin. She watched the human Daniel. As he drove, he didn't speak much. He didn't stare at her. He didn't ask questions. And somehow, that made her more nervous. Most people ask too much. Where are you from? Who owns you? How much are you worth? But he just helped. It didn't make sense. That scared her. They drove for 2 hours through white silence, until a shape appeared in the snow-dark metal, half buried under ice and rock. It looked like a fallen bunker, old and forgotten. One side was broken, the roof dented, but the door still worked. Daniel walked ahead and waved her inside. Come, it's not pretty, but it's safe. I call it home. Nirali stepped in slowly, holding her baby close, and froze. Inside was warm, clean, and full of strange human things. There were shelves with tools, dried food packs, blankets, and lights that didn't flicker. A small bed in the corner. A heater. Even a tiny stove. It was the richest place she had seen in years. To her, it looked like heaven. Daniel pulled off his gloves and coat and threw them on a hook. Then he pulled a folded metal chair and placed it near the heater. You can sit here. He'll warm up faster. Nirali didn't move. Her legs shook. He noticed. You okay? She nodded slowly, but her voice cracked. I've just never been inside a place like this without chains on. Daniel didn't say anything right away. Then he said softly, You'll never wear chains again, not if I can help it. Her throat tightened. She sat down, silent. Her child sighed in his sleep. Warm again. Later, Daniel prepared some warm broth and soft human bread. He handed her a small bowl. She took it with both hands, trembling. You're free to rest here, he said, as long as you need. No payment, no trade, just peace. She looked up at him. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak. But no words came. Instead, she ate slowly, eyes still watching him. Always watching. Not with fear, but with deep confusion. Why? Why is he doing this? She didn't ask it out loud. She just kept thinking it. That night, Daniel worked quietly in a side room. Nirali crept forward, holding her sleeping child, and peeked in. He had weapons, blasters, grenades, old armor, all stacked neatly. He was cleaning one of the guns. She stepped back. Was he a killer? A mercenary? A bounty hunter? But then, why save her? She bit her lip and returned to the bed, heart full of questions. Just before dawn, Daniel placed something beside her sleeping mat, a soft toy made of cloth. A tiny, alien animal. She opened her eyes just as he was about to walk away. You gave this to him? Daniel nodded, whispering. My sister made it, long ago. I thought he might like it. Nirali stared at the toy, then at Daniel. My people don't give gifts, she said. Not unless they care. Daniel smiled faintly. Then maybe your people are smarter than most. She didn't smile back, but she clutched the toy close. Morning came. A calm one. For once there was no storm. No running. No fear. Nirali stood by the window, watching the sky. Daniel was repairing a broken drone near the heater. Suddenly, her voice broke the silence. They'll come for me, she said. Daniel looked up. Who? She turned, lifting the edge of her blanket. The slave mark on her back glowed faintly red, old, burned into her flesh. I escaped the slave camps, she whispered. They hunt those who run. They never stop. Daniel stared at the brand, his face dark. How long? He asked. 3 years, she replied. 3 years hiding, running, sleeping under broken ships, burning my clothes to keep my son alive. Daniel stood slowly. Then he walked to a wall panel and pressed it. With a hiss, the metal wall opened. Inside was a full locker, old, heavy armor, and rows of military-grade weapons. Nirali's eyes widened. Daniel looked at her. If they come, he said, they'll find more than a weak woman and child. He pulled out a blaster and set it on the table. They'll find me. The fire inside the bunker crackled softly, but Nirali's heart was louder. She sat beside the heater, the toy animal held close to her chest. Her child slept wrapped in thick blankets, finally full, finally safe. But she wasn't sleeping. Not with that mark on her back. Not with what it meant. She had kept it hidden for years. Never showed it to anyone, not even to other slaves. It was her curse, her warning, her prison. But now the human had seen it, and he didn't flinch. He didn't step back or look at her with pity. Instead, he opened a wall of weapons and armor. He was planning to fight, for her. Daniel didn't ask more questions. He didn't need to. He sat at the table, sharpening a blade. The firelight reflected in his eyes, steady, calm, but full of thought. He had seen marks like hers before, back during his time as a soldier. He'd fought on worlds where entire cities were turned into labor pits. He remembered the look in those eyes, the same as Nerali's, tired, guarded, never at peace. He broke the silence. "I served in the border wars," he said. "I saw what those camps did to people." Nerali didn't speak. "I also saw what the cartel does to runaways," he added. She slowly turned to him. Her voice was quiet, shaky. "Then you know they won't stop." Daniel nodded. "I know. That's why I'm not letting you leave again," she frowned. "But helping me makes you a target. They'll put a bounty on your head." Daniel smiled, but it was the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. They already did. Years ago, for something else. Nerali blinked. "Why?" "I burned one of their ships," he said simply. "They were transporting children. I didn't care who owned them." Her lips parted. For the first time, she looked at him not as a stranger, but as something else. A fighter, a protector, someone like her. Later that day, Daniel helped Nerali wash the mark on her back with warm water and a healing balm. She let him. Her body trembled, not from pain, but from trust. He had earned it. "Do you want to cover it?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, I want to remember. I don't want to hide anymore." Daniel handed her a mirror. She looked at herself, the scar, the cracked skin, the tired eyes, and then she looked at her child. Alive, smiling in his sleep. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like just a mother on the run. She felt like someone who could stand. At night, they sat at the table and shared food. Daniel showed her how to use the bunker's tech, how to track movement, use the hidden tunnels, and trigger the alarm system. "You built this?" she asked. He nodded. "Piece by piece. This place saved my life once. Now it was saving hers." As she learned, her hands grew steadier, her voice firmer, her eyes sharper. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was preparing. But peace doesn't last forever. Just after midnight, the radar blinked red. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He tapped the screen. 3 ships. No ID, no call sign, coming fast. Nerali felt her heart twist. She grabbed her child and backed toward the wall. Daniel moved to the weapon locker and pulled out 2 blasters. He handed her one. She stared at it. "I haven't touched one in years." He looked her dead in the eyes. "Then it's time to remember who you were before they broke you." She held the weapon. It was heavy, cold, but it fit her hand like it belonged there. Outside, engines roared. In the dark sky, inside, 2 people stood side by side, one human, one alien mother. The child slept in a hidden, shielded pod behind the wall. Nerali's hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the fire that had returned inside her. They branded her once, but they would never break her again. The night was too quiet, not peaceful, dangerous. Daniel stood near the door of the bunker, blaster in hand. Snowflakes drifted down softly, but his eyes stayed locked on the dark horizon. He knew this kind of silence. It came right before the enemy struck. Behind him, Nerali checked her weapon with shaking fingers. She hadn't touched a blaster since she escaped the slave camps. Her hands weren't ready, but her heart was. Her child slept behind a hidden wall, wrapped in a heated pod, safe. That was all that mattered. Daniel's voice was low. 3 ships, armed, fast, no markings. "It's them," Nerali nodded. They found me. She looked down at her shaking hands. Daniel saw it. He stepped beside her. You're not that scared girl from the snow anymore. She looked up. I'm not sure I was ever just a girl. I just forgot what I was. Then remember now, he said. Because they're landing. Outside, sharp lights cut through the snow. The first ship touched down like a silent beast. Its engines hissed. The door slid open and shadows spilled out. 5 armored figures, tall, silent, their faces hidden behind black helmets. One of them spoke through a voice amplifier, cold and deep. Return the marked slave. We have no business with the human. Daniel smirked. Yeah, well, the human has business with you. He fired first. The red blast shot through the snowstorm, striking one of the masked figures. The enemy dropped with a thud. Then chaos exploded. The cartel soldiers opened fire. Blue bolts slammed into the bunker's shield walls. Sparks flew. Alarms screamed. Daniel ducked behind a crate and shouted, Nerali, stay low. But she didn't hide. She rose from the shadows like a ghost reborn, eyes glowing in the firelight. Blaster in hand, her first shot hit straight right in the chest of a guard who tried to flank. Another aimed at her, but she rolled behind cover. Breathing fast, her hands shook, but not from fear this time. From memory. This was who she used to be. This was who they tried to erase. Inside, the child woke in the pod, hearing the battle outside. He didn't cry, he just blinked. And reached for the soft toy his mother had given him. The enemy pushed closer. One guard threw a grenade near the door. Daniel grabbed it and threw it back. Fast. Boom. The snow lit up with fire. The last 2 soldiers tried to retreat, but Nerali was already waiting. She stepped out from cover, both feet planted firm in the snow. I'm not running anymore, she said. She fired twice. They fell. Silence. Then, only wind again. Smoke rose from the snow. Daniel walked to her, chest heaving, blaster still warm. They looked at each other. No words. Only nods. Only fire in the eyes. They had survived. Together. Later. Inside the bunker, Nerali sat near the heater. Her child slept peacefully in her lap again. The toy still clutched in his hand. Daniel dropped a small black device on the table. One of them was wearing a tracker. That's how they found you. Her eyes narrowed. I'll destroy it, he said, but more might come. She nodded. Then I'll be ready. He looked at her for a long time. You don't have to fight alone anymore. She reached out and placed her hand gently on his. I know, she whispered. This is the first place that's ever felt like a home. Daniel smiled. Then let's protect it. The snowstorm was over. For the first time in days, sunlight broke through the clouds. It touched the frozen ground like a soft blanket, gentle, golden, warm. Nerali stepped outside the bunker, holding her child close to her chest. His small hand reached up toward the sky, as if feeling the sun for the very first time. Behind her, Daniel stood quietly, blasters slung over his back, eyes scanning the open land. But there was no threat now, only peace, only light, only silence. Nerali sat on a rock and let her child crawl in her lap. He looked healthier now, stronger. His skin had color again. He giggled when the sun touched his face. She smiled, real smile, not a forced one, not a scared one. A smile full of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Inside the bunker, Daniel cleaned up the last signs of battle. Burned gear, broken drones, shattered crates. He patched the walls and sealed the door tighter than ever. Then he placed the broken slave tracker on the table and smashed it under his boot. He walked outside with something in his hand. Small metal plate. I made this last night, he said. Nerali raised her eyes. The plate had 3 words engraved. This is home. She blinked. You made this for me? For all of us, Daniel said. You, him, me. He nodded toward her child. We survived something together. That means we're not just strangers anymore. Nirali held the plate in her hands. She ran her fingers over the words. Her chest ached, but in a good way. Do you really want us here? She whispered. Daniel didn't answer right away. He knelt beside her and looked into her eyes. You burned your clothes to save your child. He paused. I saw soldiers run from bullets, but you walked into the storm without anything, just to keep him alive. He smiled softly. People like you don't deserve to be alone. That night, a new fire was lit in the bunker. Not just for warmth, but for celebration. Daniel cooked something simple, just heat packs and melted protein cubes, but to Nirali, it tasted like a royal feast. Her child laughed for the first time. Daniel built a small wooden crib and placed it near the heater. Nirali tucked her baby in, sang him a lullaby in her soft alien language, and kissed his forehead. Then she sat beside Daniel at the table. She looked at him for a long time, then asked, Do you have a family? Daniel stared into the fire. Had, long ago. War took them. Then peace forgot me. He turned to her. But now I have something again. Nirali tilted her head. What? Daniel's voice was quiet. A reason to stay alive. Later that night, when the child was sleeping and the bunker was dark and silent, Nirali placed the small metal plate on the outside wall. This is home. She stood back, looking at it with misty eyes for the first time in her life. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't running. She wasn't begging to be saved. She was home, with a man who chose to protect her, and a child who would grow up never knowing what a chain felt like. Only warmth. Only love. Only freedom.